Hello, everyone. Welcome to our broadcast for this Sunday, November 10th. I hope you're doing fantastic today and have had a great weekend. How are you all doing today? I want to say hello to... Change your name again. Marxist Heathen Granny 666. How are you doing? Yeah, you were first in line, weren't you? First in line. And then Automasfidel, hello. Second. Okay, there you go. And then Star Helix, turd. We got some amazing people here, don't we? We really do. that's, that's so funny. That's so funny. And we cannot forget to say hello to our mice friends. There you go. And our bear friend. Oh my gosh. Anyway, how are you all doing today? Hopefully you had a nice weekend. How was your weekend? My weekend was all right, I suppose. Pretty nice, I would say. Just overall, pretty good. Let's say I changed my name. You like it? Marxist Heathen Granny 666 with the trademark at the end too. You gotta have the trademark. Of course you do. You gotta have the trademark there. Oh my gosh. I'm surprised YouTube allows you to change your name that often. I guess if you don't have like a massive following, maybe it's okay, but I would imagine if, like for me, like this channel, it is verified, so it has a check mark. I'm sure the moment I change my name, it's going to get rid of that. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway. Let's see. Star Helix says, right, yeah, let's go ahead and dive right on into the election, right? No. Yeah, heathen getting her priorities right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah, I would say with the election nonsense, it's just people are going to be angry, people are going to be happy. Okay, so I just kind of stay out of it because the way that I viewed it is like, well, it doesn't really matter. I see some things that maybe not necessarily everyone is paying attention to. So it's like, what do they want to do with this? So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm someone who it's like, well, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I always just pull back a little bit and say, well, maybe it's not necessarily a good thing, but maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing. So anyway, I have my tea today, and I have a donut as well. This is a keto donut. I forget what the brand was. Oh my gosh. I drum roll. That was it. It was drum roll. It was a keto donut. So it comes 3 in a pack. I think it's like $4 or something. I don't remember. I think it's like maybe $3 or something. I don't know. It's not all that much, and you just get 3 small ones. But I only eat 1 a day, and it's keto. So keto meaning there's very, very little sugar and carbs. So you don't have to worry about it like giving you diabetes or anything, Let's see. Star Helix says, weekend was great. I went to a Final Fantasy Symphony. Really? Oh my gosh. That is a game that I've never actually played or really got into, to be completely honest with you. I'm kind of glad that I didn't because there's so many games in the series. So it's like, not a game that I have actually played. So hopefully you have enjoyed that. And it was a lot of fun there. It's such a popular series that's for darn sure. So hopefully it was nice for you. It's interesting. Interesting stuff. Now the topic we're going to talk about today is going to be pretty interesting as well. Yeah, it's an extension of Friday's topic, which was about the male and female sides to our personality, because we all have male and female sides, no matter how much we may try to block them out. Okay, so the Anima and the Animus, that's what we're talking about today. Marxist says our democracy is literally about to crumble. Let it crumble on down, I say. Let it crumble on down. Yeah, I really, as I said, I really do not think, I don't think things are going to be the way that people think that they're going to be. Okay, I think it's going to be very, very different. Okay, so let's take a sip of our tea, if I can. Oh, I actually can. Okay, I made this about a little less than 20 minutes ago. Meg, it is great to have you here. How are you doing? You're still a member. Yes, you are. You're a member for a month because you got a gift subscription. And be sure to stay tuned for the end of the broadcast when I give out some gift membership. So, yes, some lucky 5 people who may be watching may end up getting them. We're going to wait and see. Anyway, Meg, how are you doing? How has your weekend been? Hopefully fantastic. You know, it's been getting very cold here, and I'm not liking that because just over the past week, like earlier in the week, it was very warm. You know, it's like thank goodness for, you know, the warming. And that is such, I feel such a big difference with my energy levels when it's actually warm as opposed to it being cool now and it's like you know, it's like so I'm fine and went by and it went by too fast. Oh, okay. Star Helix says, Carl Jung is a legend. I love the idea of the Jungian concept of the shadow. We all have it. You're absolutely right. That is the psychology of the mind that is very, very fascinating to me, which is basically the whole principle of this topic today, because there's different parts of our personality. There's many different things about our personality. A lot of times we're just aware of the ego. What does the ego want? What does the ego do? What does the ego believe? And that is what most people live in. They just live in the ego. But there's so much more deep down within our personality that we're not aware of. Much like what you mentioned there with the shadow. That is the shadow part of ourselves. That is the things that perhaps we don't necessarily like about ourselves, or like a much darker part of ourselves, or even things that we have blocked out that we don't wish to acknowledge, or things that are subconsciously controlling us behind the scenes, and many different things that can be incorporated into our personality that we're not necessarily even aware of when it comes to how we behave, how do we act. But a lot of it does come from the ego, because that is where most people seem to live. They're not able to separate themselves from that ego. They just see things from the ego wants this, the ego is going to react in this way, and that is what they do. There's many different examples of this. Usually people who are extremely, either, I would say people who are very aggressive, people who are very highly emotional and are very, I guess, very, what is the word I'm looking for? They just like to attack other people. They get defensive very easily, and they just are very much on the attack. You know, it's like any sort of thing that criticizes us, we have to think, like all of a sudden we bring up a guard in some way, and that's the ego. That is the ego that comes up. The ego comes up when someone criticizes us. When someone says something about us that's going to criticize a part of ourselves that we deem as either inferior, or that we don't like about ourselves, or it's something that we don't necessarily have and we want. And when people bring that up, they will go on the attack and criticize and judge someone else and say a whole bunch of rude, hateful things, or even get into an actual physical altercation with the other person, just because the ego steps in to defend that inner self that is being, feel as though it is being vulnerable and it's coming out, a negative aspect of what we don't like about ourselves. So that's where a lot of people stand, that they cannot separate the ego from what they truly believe, or their emotions, because the emotions all flow through that ego as well. Where you have the anger, you have the depression, even the extreme happiness, to the point where it becomes arrogance. Like you're pushing, like, see, I was right and you were wrong. You know, it's like pushing things in other people's face. You know, that is all of the ego. So in order to detach yourself from that, it's really not an easy thing to do. It's, well, first of all, it's actually impossible to do it entirely, but there is a way to do it in a way that the ego no longer has as massive of a control over you as you think it does. So that is part of the foundation of our personality, but we're going to dive into the different genders within our personality when it comes to male and female, because we're all male and female to some degree. Other people more. And I think this is such an important topic for me to really talk about, and for any other, you know, transsexual individual who has gone through a transition, because this is something that's very interesting that I think only people like us can really connect with in a very different way than most people who are born one way and they stay that way and they identify that way. So it's a whole new type of experience that I can give my own perspectives on. So we're getting into that in just a moment. So I'm gonna take a sip of my tea and take a bite of my keto donut here. Let's see. Boys, would you like a bite? No, you're not allowed, because keto is bad for you. Keto is bad for rats. Rats like cheese. They don't like donuts. Actually, they will eat the donuts, but not keto donuts. The chocolate one is the best. There is chocolate, raspberry, I think, or something, and vanilla. And out of all of those, the chocolate one is the best. Very, very good. Mm-hmm. I like that. Give your kitty a scratch behind the ears for me, please. What about give my rats a scratch on their feet? I would like that. There you go, look. No. That donut is so good. See, that is something else that the ego does. Let's talk about ego when it comes to food, even. Um, okay. So the ego, when it comes to food, it can be like, this is really good. I want more. I want more. Just keep eating and eating and eating, and it's like insatiable. That is the ego talking. The ego is saying that. So a lot of times, if you're going to have proper portion control, it's just about, from my perspective, it's very easy. I could just say no. And then I just listen to myself. Like, no. You know, it's like I put one here for me, and that's all that I'm going to have. And I think it's because I've learned to be able to realize what the ego is saying. If the ego is saying, I want to eat all this and that and whatever, it's like, that's not what you're going to do, because this is what I put here for you, and that's it. You know what I mean? So that can be another thing of the ego as well. So, they can sniff Ryan's feet. Oh, we would like that, except, well, the reason why he's not here right now is because we sniffed his feet so hard that we accidentally sucked up his whole entire body into our nose holes. And, well, and he's gone. Boys, what is going on? Anyway, let's see. Star Helix says, I like some more feminine-based music, like Turi Amos, but it's not considered masculine, so I feel I can't really share this with my more masculine peers. It becomes a private listening session. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Who is this artist? I'm not familiar with this artist. Let's see who this artist is. I am not aware of said artist. Okay. Let's see what kind of music. She does alternative rock, pop rock, some electronic music. It looks like okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with. I've never heard of her. Now it's interesting that you bring up music because most of the music that I listen to is primarily well, most of the music that I listen to that has vocals, because there's a lot of music that I listen to that does not have vocals. Most of it is female singers for the most part. For the most part, I really don't like too many male singers. So, yeah, it's interesting. Some, I would say some, but it has to be, I don't know. It's just, if it's a female singer, now I should, it's interesting because the type of music that I listen to everything. Ah, lots of piano. Okay, that sounds nice too. I listen to every single kind of music imaginable. Everything you could possibly imagine. Well, there's probably some music that I really am not even aware of, obviously, and there's one type of genre that I really don't like, and that is oh my gosh, what is that? Dubstep. Not a fan of that music at all. Not a fan of that type of music. Okay. Yeah, it's just because I mean I do like electronic music. Electronic music is definitely at the top there, but dubstep is no. But I do like every other kind of music. And if you've heard me speak about this over the years, or like many years ago on my other channel, I actually did a showcase of all of the music albums that I had. 95% of them are soundtracks. Soundtracks to either video games or television shows, primarily like anime shows that I liked back in the day. So all of those, I would say if I were to sell all of those, they would probably be worth quite a bit of money because most of them were actually imported from Japan, and they are, at the time they were like CDs in Japan would cost a lot more than CDs here. Like you could buy like a CD here, if people still buy CDs, for like, $7 maybe. The ones that were imported, the retail price, and this is what it's sold in Japan for, so this is not even including the shipping cost, it would sell for like $22 to $25 or so for just a CD. And it's like, oh, interesting, okay. And that's just basing it off of, if you look at the CD, you can see what it sold for, the currency in yen, and then you just convert that, and then you see, oh, okay, that's how much it actually costs. And then you can see what the seller is selling it at. So a lot of that is most of the music that I end up having. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. So for the most part, if I'm playing music, it's going to be something probably that most people have never heard of before or even know. Some of which, actually, a decent amount. I wouldn't say all of it because a lot of these soundtracks, surprisingly, even though they do come from Japan, there's a lot of English as well. There's a lot of other languages even. So it's not just Japanese, it's just a variety. But it's like, with all of that, it's like, okay, maybe you may not even be able to understand the music anyway. So, but yeah, that's just something that I really like for the most part. So I listen to all sorts of music. I listen to all sorts of music. So for me, it's always the female vocals. I like how we just went on off of that just by you mentioning about the female singer. But I mean that brings up a good point because there's sometimes people who like more male singers as opposed to female. I am someone who likes more female singers as opposed to male. So it all depends on the person, you know? I would say male voices do better for like rock and metal music. I like male voices for that. I do not like female voices for that for the most part. Some. It depends on what it is. But if it's like a rock song in general, female voice is fine. But if it's like a hard rock song or even like a metal song, a male voice is usually better, in my opinion. So anyway, let's see. Granny says, "I wish I could have someone scratch me behind my ear. That would feel so good." We can scratch you behind your feet with our nose. That's right. Boy, settle it down. Anyway, let me take a bite of this and then we shall continue reading some of your comments here and then we're going to get a little bit more here. Such a good donut. It's almost gone. Anyway, let's see what else you have to say. Okay, Star Helix says, I'm with you on that. Most of my collection is female singers as well. Okay. Nick says, I'm not a huge fan of country. It depends on the song. You know? If it's about some guy who's talking about his wife left him for like a tractor trailer or something. No, like he left his wife because he liked his tractor more or something. I don't know. There was like some song like that. I forget what it was. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so dumb. It's funny, but but it's like dumb. Oh man. But yeah. Sometimes I strip out the vocals on some songs using AI. Oh, I love listening to the instruments on mega death songs. Okay, that sounds vaguely familiar, but yeah, I mean that's something that I used to do way back in the day before all the AI stuff. Anyway, because it's having an either a instrumental version of a song that you like or an a cappella. You could listen to that. So yeah, that's also really nice. So. It would be weird, like if I were to be someone who would like blast my music in my car, like those people who like blast their music so loud you can hear it and it like shakes everything and it's like, oh my gosh. Can you imagine like if I did that? It would literally. I can imagine it being like a rap song or something that is playing and like who's driving this? And then the person sees me and it's like, okay, that's kind of weird because it's like I don't, it's like I don't fit the depiction that someone have who would be blasting that music, you know what I mean? I guess based on my appearance, it'd be more like, I guess, rock songs or something, if I'm listening to that. But then it'd be like, okay, who's playing this like rap song? And then right after the rap song, it plays like a song from like a Mario game. And it's like, what's this person doing? What's this person doing? You know? It's like, this is like weird. And then after that, it plays like Britney Spears or something, Britney Spears is playing Hit Me Baby One More Time, It's like, okay. So, that would be very strange. It would be very funny, but yeah. Anyway. Anyway, let me continue on with our topic now. Slave for you, yeah. There you go. I don't have that one. I don't have slave for you. I don't have that one. Okay, so Starhelight says, how many people repress their feminine or masculine tendencies to save face? Like you may really want to start playing piano, but worry you may start to lose connections with your peers. That's very interesting because I feel as though a lot of people, that has to do a lot of times with the ego as well. The ego says, I don't want to lose people. I don't want to feel inferior to other people. I just want to fit in. I just want to do what other people want me to do, as opposed to me doing what I want to do. So that is a major problem. So when we start drilling a bit more down into this topic of the inner male and inner female. So these two terms are referred to as anima and animus. So the anima is the unconscious inner female or the inner feminine side of a man. So a man who it could be someone who's very masculine. Their inner feminine side, the things that would make them partially a little bit female, that would be considered the anima. And then inverse of that, the animus, that would be the unconscious inner masculine side of a female. So very feminine, girly, and then she would have some sort of masculine, inner masculine side, which is the animus. Both of these tend to be unconscious in a lot of people. They're not really necessarily aware of it. It's just part of their life. But a lot of things can influence it. Society, big time society, can influence it. And we are going to be talking about the topic of feminism as well, because that actually fits into this as well. Surprisingly, believe it or not, it actually does. So we will address the whole feminism thing in just a moment. So let's just talk about the inner feminine side of a man. So what is the man told by society? What does it mean to be a man? What does society say a man is, and what a man should do and not do? Does anyone know when it comes to what men should not do? Because they're too masculine or too manly. It's like they should not do something because it would be considered weak and inferior. What could that be? As I take my last bite of donut. Hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Star Helix and Meg, you both got it. You're absolutely right. Star Helix. Hmm. It's funny. Yeah. So, you're absolutely right. The feelings and emotions that men have. Men don't cry. Men, it's like, don't have feelings. Don't show your feelings. Be a man about it. That's literally what the term is. Be a man about it and don't show your feelings. That is what society says a man should do. Now, I'm not sitting here saying men should be overly emotional and cry at every little thing here and there. That's not what we're talking about. Rather, society puts pressure on men to behave a certain way and to not show certain things that could upset them or things that would get them in touch with their emotions. And it ends up causing problems for them because they're not able to connect with their emotions at that point. Now, mind you, speaking from my experience, and unless you've gone through this journey yourself, I am, someone who can speak on experience with this, going from man to woman, male to female, going through that emotional journey. Females are far more emotional than men are, and it has to do with the hormones. So even though, as a man, you're going to have a lot, you're going to have a lot less emotions. The problem is that the emotions that men could have, they're not able to express them. They hide how they feel about something. It even goes that far with that they hide things about themselves. Elioth, nice to have you here. Hola, Autumn, ¿cómo estás? How are you? I do not know any Spanish really, so my apologies. Even though I studied Spanish in, was it middle school or something? That was just like, I was not a fan of Spanish class, to be completely honest with you. That was not the language that I wanted to really learn. So I didn't bother with it, so I don't really know Spanish, sorry. Does anyone else know any other languages? That's an interesting topic as well. So, when it comes to men, they have a harder time showing their emotions or expressing how they feel about something, and they're told to lie in order to cover up what their emotions are, because well, it would be considered not manly of them if they were to show something, you know? So, yeah, that's a major problem. So how can a man get more in touch with his anima, his inner feminine side, to be able to connect more with his emotions? To be able to realize that even though he may not have the same level of emotions as a female does, primarily because of the hormones, he can still express the way that he does deal with his emotions instead of blocking it out. Because the problem is, men often will block out their emotions, push it aside, and it just keeps piling up, and it ends up being a lot of problem that they can't even talk about things. So that can be a major problem for them. So being able for a man to connect with his emotions better, being able to express them a little better, allowing him to be a bit more honest about how he feels about certain things, situations, people, things that he may not like, being able to express those in a way, then that would allow him to connect better with another part of him that is yet to be discovered, which will allow him to be a better person overall. Because the whole purpose of you connecting with these inner parts of your being is to connect with yourself in your entirety. Because once you begin to do a lot of self-reflection and work on yourself, you begin to realize that there's a lot of things that you weren't aware of about yourself, that you may have been hiding and blocking out to the point where you don't even know what some of your interests are anymore, that you just continuously block and push things out. Well, in order for you to really understand what you want out of life, you have to be the one to connect with the deeper part of your being, being able to connect with unconscious parts of your being. That, mind you, I feel as though there may be some men who would listen to what I'm saying who would say, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to be a sissy. You know, it's like that's what society's telling you. Society's telling you that because that's not the case. Okay? Or some people may think, well, if I do that, I'm going to become trans and then, you know, start my transition process because I'm going to turn into a female. You know, it's like, no. It's separate from a transsexual individual going through a transition. It's very, very different from that. So that is from the male perspective of a man connecting with the inner female. Now we're going to move on into the woman connecting with her inner masculine side. And society has the inverse of this. So let me read over some of your comments here, but I'm going to ask you a question first. So what does society say that women should do or shouldn't do that would perhaps be linked in some way to their inner masculine side? That's what I'm curious to hear from you. What do you think? Much like with a man is told by society to not show any emotion. What does society tell females to do when it comes to, or do or not do? It could be a bloated question. Okay. So Meg says, a lot of guys have told me I'm too chill for a female. Like, I get their way of thinking because they have been with other females who don't necessarily get them. Interesting. Everyone is different, right? So obviously you're able to connect in different ways. Star Helix says, I know enough French to say I don't speak fluent French. That's funny. That's funny. It's like, I know enough French to say I don't speak French. Alias says, what do you think of the non-binary craze? This is something I've been talking about for quite a while. You know, it's just something that is... I have a lot of feelings about that. I feel as though, to me, from what I've seen, it's like you don't really see people who are non-binary. It's like you're either male or female and just how you express that, because there is no other option, really. There is really no other option, because you have a masculine way of life, a feminine way of life. What is the other option? There is nothing that exists in nature that is like that, except for maybe, you know, microorganisms and that sort of stuff who maybe don't even have a gender. But that's not us. We're not, human beings are mammals who are either male or female. That's it. So I feel as though a lot of times these can be people who just don't necessarily know who they truly are. But, you know, as I say, it's like, if you're going to be respectful to me, I will be respectful to you. It's like, I don't really care what you identify as or how you feel you are. You know, it's like, but if you're going to get upset if I say your pronouns wrong or whatever, then it's like, sorry, it's like, I messed up, but if you're going to attack me, it's like, oh. Anyway. Okay. Let's see, I don't know about the US, but there are groups of men where they can go on walks with the other men to talk about feelings, and that's an icebreaker right there. Oh, that's interesting. Like-minded men. Okay, there you go. That's interesting. Some people may say, oh, that's gay. You know, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do in order to express yourself in your entirety, right? We don't have that in the US. Yeah. Okay. Alio says, it's okay for women to have masculine attributes. Absolutely. What does society say? Playing football or man sports, being strong, or doing a man's job. Okay. Women may get shunned for that. Okay. To be able to fix their own car. Okay. Granny says, I'm very tomboyish and I'm a trans woman, and my partner is a trans woman too, and she's always dated men, and I'm the first woman she's been with. Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting. Basically being able to do a man's job. Okay, so here's where we get into the topic of the inner masculine side of a female. This is referred to as the animus. So, society basically shuns men and tries to raise women to be superior to men. And that is what we call feminism. And that is a major problem, because here is the situation when it comes to feminism. I mean, there's no problem necessarily with feminism and having equal rights for men and women. I understand that. But it has gone to such a degree. Okay, we're talking about over the top, where there are plenty of people who are feminists who hate men, who hate any sort of masculine energy whatsoever, who think that they should be better than men as opposed to equal, to the point now where it has gotten so extreme that there are certain things that women are promoted above men a lot of times in certain situations, to the point where women are seen now as still technically inferior by a lot of society, but they're often given more privileges than men tend to be, because men are often shunned. So that is where we get into the feminism topic, because society will elevate women more because society amplifies their inner masculine side, tries to bring out that inner feminine side. So basically, what society's doing here, society is shunning the anima in the male and raising up the animus in the female. So you see the equal, it's not equal. That's the problem. Men are shunned, women are elevated. That is the problem. Now, of course, there's a lot of other things within there that are major problems. That are women really elevated? No, in a lot of ways. They really aren't, but in many other ways that they actually are. So it's such a destructive imbalance with how it is happening. How society is portraying, or even people in general are viewing men and women, whether it be inferior or inferior. And that's a major problem. That is a major problem. So feminism is exploiting this inner masculine side to bring out. Because the thing is, as we mentioned briefly here, can a woman do all the same things a man can do? Theoretically, it should be possible, right? Because we're all human beings. But technically speaking, no, it is not possible. Primarily because men have certain advantages that women will never have. Women have certain advantages that men would never have. And if you look at body strength, for example, sure, a woman can be as strong, if not stronger than some men, but in general, men are stronger than women. So when it comes to physical labor jobs or jobs that require physical strength, who do you often see working those jobs? It's often men. And when you hear the argument of that there has to be diversity, we have to hire women to be part of our team because we need diversity. That's a problem because you're putting women in a spot that maybe some women want, but for the most part, most women cannot handle those sorts of things. And some people will say that is sexist to say that because men and women are equal in every single way, and it's like that's just not true. That's just not true. The reason why is because we're all different. Men and women are very much different, but we're also very much alike because we're human beings, but we're very different in many ways. I can see this personally from my own perspective, going through a transition myself from male to female, seeing the things that were changing in my own body that were very different. You know? So there's so many different things here. Can a woman do the same job as a man? It depends. Can a man do the same job as a woman? It depends. This is something that I've brought up plenty of times as well, that how often do you see a female construction worker or plumber or electrician? You don't really see those things because those tend to be more male-oriented jobs. Not because the business who hired the men is sexist and they're not hiring females. It's because who's mostly applying for those jobs? It's mostly men because men are interested in those jobs. Women tend to not be interested in those jobs. Some women may be, but for the most part, women are not going to be interested in those jobs. That's not sexist. That's not because there's diversity problems in the company or whatever. That's because men and women are very different. Same with more female-oriented jobs, such as, being like a secretary or like a like some of those like nursing, jobs and such. Those tend to be more female-oriented jobs. More has to do with like hospitality type jobs or maybe connecting with other people. Those tend to be more female-oriented jobs, whereas physical labor jobs tend to be more masculine jobs. So I think when we're able to figure that out, then we realize just what society's doing here to make men and women separated so much, as opposed to putting us on equal grounds. So then how does a woman connect with her inner masculine side? Well, if society is basically telling her, to shun anything masculine, just all that sort of stuff, she has to be able to connect with some of her inner masculine side. Maybe there are some things that she likes that would be considered male activities or male interests, and maybe she should explore some of those and see what some of her interests are with that. Being more assertive, because a lot of women tend to just go along with whatever is going on around them, as opposed to them standing their ground and being a bit more assertive. Women tend to be a bit more submissive, because that tends to be the more natural approach. It's like, don't do those things, women. But if a woman is able to be a bit more assertive, then that will connect with her more inner masculine side as well. So these are all things that she can do in order to connect. So it's just a very interesting topic. It really is. Okay, I'm going to read over some more of your comments here. I want to say hello to Supreme Wolf. How are you doing, Supreme? And Cadden, great to have you here. How are you doing? Hopefully you're doing fantastic. Okay, so Meg says, that's where I lack in society because I wouldn't submit to a man. There you go. Wouldn't submit to a man. Uh, hmm, hmm, it's funny. Okay, they basically want a housewife. Yeah, you know, sometimes, yeah. That's how things used to be back in the day, you know? But you have to factor in, it's like those were very different times than they are now, you know? Things aren't the same now. But hey, you know, if that's what the woman's interests are and that's what she wants to do, then let her do it, I suppose. But see, if I was someone like that, it's like that would really bother me because I'm not doing something that I need to be doing some sort of activity that I really enjoy. That's not something that I would really enjoy. You know, that's something like if you're going to be a housewife and you're cleaning up and everything, that's where you hire Consuela to come in and clean everything up, you know? Or, you know, if it's the male version, Consuelito, Consuelita. I don't know. I don't know. Trying to make that male, I guess. Anyway. uh, anyway. Computer classes were mostly men. Ah, yeah, there you go. Women never were allowed to make choices. Men basically quiet them down. Okay. Hmm. Women, you gotta try Linux. It'll open your mind, embrace the inner nerd. Yep, I got a Linux for my gaming computer. That's what I use for my gaming computer now. My Linux operating system. The men are talking, hush. The rats are talking, hush. I mean, sniff. uh, my dominant part never went away. Gotcha. Mine eventually did. Like I was more dominant, but now it has subsided a bit. So primarily from the hormones. Let's see. What do you think of AGP and HSTS? I believe that is. Let me look that up. Okay, what do I think of an accelerated graphics port or the Hawaiian Lutanian Standard Time? So I don't really know about those sorts of things to be completely honest with you. I just did like a quick search. That was what came up first. I forget what those terms mean, but yeah. Yeah, the accelerated graphics port back in the day, you know, that was something that it was very hard to actually connect things to, you know? It's like I wasn't even born yet, you know? Oh man, oh man. Let me actually look. Let me see if I can get a different meaning. I've heard those terms before, but I forget. Um, AGP. Okay, here it is. There's actually a bunch of stuff. We got the Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's like 15, 20 different things. I have no idea. I have a whole list here of stuff. And then HSTS. Oh, the HSTS is a security feature that enables websites to declare themselves accessible only via secure connections. That's enabled on my website. So HSTS, I have a positive attitude about that because it's enabled on my website. Sorry, I'm not going to look too much into that right now because I don't know what it's asking, but we do have something here, guys. We do have something. Okay. All the people who got them are not here in the chat today. Or if they are, they have not spoken. So congratulations, Edgar Allan Ho. Welcome to the membership for the month. You get early access to new videos for the next month. Worry you nice. I know, Edgar Allan Ho. That is like the absolute best. Edgar Allan Ho. Michelle Craig, great to have you as a member. I don't think any of these people have become members before. Actually, maybe Nina has. She looks kind of familiar. Hello, Nina. How you doing, Nina? My girl, Nina. Let's see who else got it. Valerie, girl, you got it too. Yeah. Anyway, so the last thing we're going to conclude this with here, as we have done, I wonder how accurate it has been. We just draw one tarot card for the week. What is our theme for this week? Did you feel as though our theme for when I drew the card on Sunday, do you feel as though it fit the mood of this past week? This was a crazy week for a lot of people, whether it be extreme sadness or extreme happiness or extreme indifference. I was more of the indifference. It's like, okay. It's like I don't go in it with any sort of mindset. But let's see what we get for this coming week. You activated my trap card, which is the Page of Cups. The Page of Cups. Here it is. I just love how it's like so dark. Seven of Swords, I believe, was last week. Yeah, let's say. Seven of Swords. Betrayal. Yeah, that was the last one. Okay, so Page of Cups for this time. Page of Cups says sweetness, interest in literature, gentleness. This sounds like a positive thing may come from this week. Maybe there'll be something very sweet that'll happen to you or to someone close to you, or maybe you would do something sweet for someone. You know, be a little generous. You know, or maybe interest in literature. Maybe there's a book that you need to finish reading. Or writing even. Maybe if you're writing a book. Maybe this is the week to start focusing on it. Whatever the case is, this seems to be more of a positive week. Anyway, let me finish reading over your comments and then we shall conclude. My tea's almost done as well. That's funny. Wonder if that was a typo. Edgar Allan Ho, I don't think that was a typo. I think that was intentional. Sounds kind of Anima driven. There you go. Anima driven. That was, yeah, the Page of Cups, maybe. Maybe. Have an Anima themed week ahead, yes. Okay. Anyway, folks, I'm going to wish you all a great week ahead. That's right. The rats are also going to wish you a great week ahead. Bye, boys and ladies. Bye, boys and ladies. Here's their little bear friend. So, gonna wish you, yes, right, he doesn't really talk, do you? You don't really talk. Look how cute. Yeah, he doesn't talk, But anyway, I'm gonna wish you all a fantastic week ahead. I look forward to seeing you again next Sunday, where we will be live here again, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So, take care, have a great week, and see you all again soon. Bye-bye.